Before the internet, before the World Wide Web, before being a celeb, before the worldwide pleb, before they left, before it was upside down, before the circus came to town, before they sent in the clowns, before the thems, before the theys and the others, before your dad was your mother and your sister was your brother, before the surgeries, before the big fake knockers, before the perjury, before the hormone blockers, before the banking stopped, before the debt, before the great replacement, before the great reset, before the Clinton, Bush and Kennedys and government dependencies and teacher sexual tendencies, and England lost on penalties, before fentanyl, before the mumble MCs, before the Cardi Bs were flapping their wet ass peas, before the millennium, before Jay-Z and Eminem, before R. Kelly and Nelly, and before men all became feminine, before Lou was Me Too, before Patrice and Kevin, before Building 7, before Rodney King and 9/11, before gangster rap, before they installed the gang division that filled the prison, before Fred West's planning permission, before the golden era, before all the bulletproof vests, before all the vultures took all the ultras and the tribes called Quest, before they rocked the bells, before Kangols and Gazelles, before fat lace shells, before new wave air gels, before Dougie Fresh to Show, before Curtis Blow, before the rap, before the decks, before the crap, before the checks, before the BMX, before the TDK and Memorex, before CFAX and Teletext and Davy DMX, before the coke, before the meth, before the crack, before scoring a £5 draw, a squid G black, before Ange and Dirty Den, a blankety blank checkbook and pen, before the news at 5:45, the news at 9 and the news at 10, before Michael Jackson's Thriller, before Polly Cell's new polyfiller, before Kinder Surprise and Surprise Surprise with Scylla, before Rubik's Cubes, before Elton John's first Tubaloo, before the first pube, before Jordan had boobs, before non-alcoholic beers, cheers and Lineker's ears, before Hoddle and Waddle, before the wobble, before Chernobyl, before Just for Men, before Brute and High Karate, before Emu attacked Parky and Grace Jones clapped Russell Arty, before Stevie Nicks, before Flash Gordon and Queen, before Page 3 Tits, Unpatterned Low-Fat Margarine, before the ZX81s, before Capri Sun, before Pop-Tarts and Hot-Cross Buns, before Marathon became Snickers, before the Walnut was whipped, before the card was in the bounty, before Jamie Dodgers and Kenny Rogers was coward of the county, before Nick Cotton, before Johnny was rotten, before kippers, before flippers, before zippers on tartan slippers, before Len Fairclough and Mavis, before Adam West Pants and Vest, before Roger Malone and Dickie Davis and Ted Maltz Everest, before Matchbox Race and Chase and Evil Knievel, before the Weevil, before Robert Mugabe, before Peter Tosh and Bob Marley, before Clough left Derby, before Kenny Lynch and Tarby, before Twiggy and Lulu, before the hippie scene, before man went up to the moon in a big yellow submarine, before John and Yoko, before Dylan went electric, before Eva did the loco from imperial to metric, before Elvis's pelvises, before Richard was little, before television, before Clay and Cooper in the middle, before the gramophone, before there were listeners, before there were Randrew's sisters, before the radio transistors, before war broke out in blisters, before it was peaceful, before the prequel, before the lies that led to the sequel, before Holmes and Mr. Moto, before Horlicks and Cocoa, before Ovaltine and Steam Engine and the first coloured photo, before Einstein, before Tesla, before Edison, before Byron, Keats and Tennyson, before Louis Pasteur and medicine, before venison, yes, before Slade, before the Napoleonic Eagle and the charge of the Light Brigade, before all men were created equal to the plague, before the descent got louder, before Guy Fawkes and gunpowder, before the first crusades, before the knights in shining armour, before the Mark of Joan of Arc, before Kate Bush and Bananarama, before the Magna Carta, before Roma, before Sparta, before the first televised 147 and verse 9 data, before the sun-dried tomato, before the Great Wall of China, before the vagina, before Shaggy's Old Carolina, before Tupac and Biggie Smalls, before the fall of Jericho's walls, before caveman drew on walls, before the first cock and balls, before the troglodytes, before the first baboon, before tripping balls after picking up that first mushroom, before Triceratops was having a pop at the T-Rex, before Cocoa Pops and Ready Breaks and Ants and Decks, before the Jimmy Castor Bunch, before it just begun, before the Big Bang, before the forming of the sun, before the before, and before the before and before the after, before the first cries of pain and the last tears of laughter, before time began, before there was time, before everything I just said in this rhyme, before all that.